What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So, like a lot of my videos, we are going to be going to the roller coaster capital of the world, the one and the only Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. And today, instead of looking at what I could see in the future, I'm going to look at what the park currently has. Now, I've gotten the pleasure to ride every single major roller coaster at Cedar Point, so today I wanted to look at all of these roller coasters and look at my personal favorite moments on every single one of them, including a prediction for Wild Mouse. So, in this video I'm going to be looking at either a certain element, a certain area, or a certain aspect of each of the rides, and I will give you my honest opinions on that part of the ride and compare it to other parts. So, this is Cedar Flags, and today we are going to be looking at the best moments on all major Cedar Point coasters. We are going to be going from the front of the park to the back of the park, starting from Gatekeeper and ending this off with my favorite coaster at the park and my favorite of all time, Steel Vengeance. So we are starting off with Gatekeeper. This is the B&M wing coaster at the park, and even though this ride has so many great inversions, I personally think my favorite is the Immelmann. Now, I know not a lot of people like Immelmanns, and I'm not really a big fan of them, but man, there is something about this element that absolutely rocks. You are pinned into your seat, you may even gray out. There is something about this element that is so forceful and so fast, you are taking this at full speed, and it is just magical. Up next, we are going to go to Blue Streak, another blue coaster in the front of the park, but the main difference is that this is the oldest coaster operating at the point. I really do love most of this ride, but if I were to narrow it down, it would probably be that first Airtime hill after the first drop. You get some pretty good airtime on some days, you will even get ejector. But like I said, the rest of the ride is action-packed as well. Now, this next one is going to be a bit of a prediction for Wild Mouse. Now, when I rode a ride like Steel Dragon at Waldameer, which even though it is a completely different model, I think there is a good way to compare. Now, Steel Dragon has a very cool element as an outer bank turn, and that truly is the crown moment of the ride. I'm going to take that logic and say that the outer bank turns on Wild Mouse at Cedar Point are going to be the best elements on the ride, providing some really good forces while spinning. Up next, we go to Cedar Point's B&M invert, Raptor. Now, this is a very popular B&M invert, and I have to say that it has got to be one of my favorites. Even though some of the elements on this ride are incredible, I truly believe that the Helix is the crown jewel of this ride. You know the one, that final Helix that pins your legs and is absolutely an insane feeling. Very forceful and very sustained. One of the best moments on any B&M ever. And its much younger B&M neighbor is Valravn. This is the B&M dive coaster at the park, and a coaster that I have started to like more as I ride it more. Just like most of the other dive coasters I have been on, I'm going to have to say that my favorite part of the dive coaster is, well, the dive. Especially if you're sitting in the back row. This drop in the back row is truly a monumental experience, and even with those B&M vests, you're going to get some pretty good ejector airtime. Corkscrew is a coaster I usually skip when I go to the point, though I do recognize that it is a very beautiful and historic coaster. And the part of the ride that I really do enjoy and look forward to are those corkscrews. They are a lot less jerky than the rest of the ride, and when you look down you could see all the happy, eager guests going towards the back of the park. It is one of the most beautiful series of elements on any coaster ever. Going to another aero coaster across the pond, we have Iron Dragon. This is an aero suspended coaster that opened up in the 1980s. I think the part that seals the deal for this ride is the finale. It is one of the most iconic parts of the ride, and you are over water. Plus, if it's running fast, you could feel a few forces as well. Very fun and very kid-friendly. Iron Dragon's neighbor is Rougarou, formerly known as Mantis. Even though I like this better as a stand-up coaster, I do think Rougarou still has a great layout, though most times it can be a rather rough experience. Out of all the elements on this ride, I think my favorite is still the vertical loop. Especially if you're sitting near the back of the car, this is going to have some incredible G-forces and be a very whippy element, just like all those classic old school B&M loops do the best. Up next, we are going to be talking about Top Thrill Dragster. Now, this roller coaster is truly something that has been a mystery. This ride is currently in a defunct status, but is going to be quote-unquote reimagined. My favorite part on the original model was the hydraulic launch, one of the best moments on any coaster ever, but if that is being replaced, then I'm going to have to give it to the drop off the Tophat. One of my favorite drops of all time, it just feels monumental, nosediving 400 feet out of the sky. Keeping up with the trend of iconic first drops, we are going to go over to Millennium Force. This coaster opened up all the way in 2000 and was a state-of-the-art coaster when it was made, and is still one of my favorite roller coasters of all time. This ride truly is iconic, and just like Dragster, I think this ride has a great first drop. This first drop makes you feel like you're floating in space, and with Lake Erie to the left of you and Cedar Point to the right, it has got to be one of the most amazing experiences on any ride ever. Now, I'm sure this next one's going to be a pretty unpopular opinion. Magnum XL200 is known for the hills beside the lift hill. Those tiny, pointy hills that are truly an incredible airtime experience. Though I love these hills, there is a hill that I do slightly prefer. And after that turnaround, there is a certain airtime moment that is in a tunnel. It is a very disorienting experience, and even though it isn't as strong as some of the finale moments, it still gives some great ejector and is a lot more sustained than those other moments. This is Gemini, which is the dueling coaster at the park. This is an Arrow, and I really have to say that I love this ride. This is currently my top 30, which is a very unpopular opinion, but the airtime is the reason this ride is ranked so high. Two notable moments, one being the incredible elite first drop, and then there is a certain hill after the second turnaround that sends you into a head chopper that truly gives some of the most incredible negative G-forces I have ever experienced. I prefer this airtime to Magnum's because of how violent it is and the head choppers. Finally, we are back at Frontier Town, where we are going to end the video, starting off with Cedar Creek Mine Ride, which is one of the oldest coasters at the park and the oldest Arrow. This is truly an iconic coaster within itself, but my favorite part has got to be that drop over the water. This is halfway in the ride, way after the first drop, and I have to say, this ride is super iconic. It is just fun, and even though it's not too forceful, it provides a great view and a great fun factor. Maverick is the intimate blitz coaster at the park, and is one of the coasters that started a trend in low-to-the-ground elements. This ride truly is an iconic ride, and for the coaster community, it is very loved. And this ride is jam-packed with elements that could be number one, but personally, I think this ride starts off with an absolute bang. That first drop, in the back row especially, is an unforgettable experience. And finally, we have the crown jewel in my personal opinion. This is Steel Vengeance, the RMC Hyper Hybrid. Now, it was really hard to narrow down a single favorite moment of this ride, but as someone who loves both ejector airtime and sustained airtime, I had to go with the Tophat. This is the first major hill after the first hill, and you are out of your seat for what seems to be forever. Straight up ejector for 4 or 5 seconds, you are just flying hundreds of feet in the air, and this is truly a mesmerizing experience that I never thought would be possible. Anyways, that was my video. Now let me know in the comments below, like always, if you agree with me on this. If you disagree, feel free to leave your personal opinions in the comments below. Let me know what you think Wild Mouse's crown jewel element is going to be, and if you haven't been to Cedar Point, leave some predictions in the comments below. Anyways, until next time, this is Cedar Flags, and I will see you all later.